Hey, Disturbing listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, Brandan and Mary. Let's watch.
A blushing and pregnant bride. Now they're parents to a beautiful baby girl. Once again, congratulations to you, Brandan and Mary. How old is the baby now?
1 month old.
We heard that there were some...
Okay, so there was a lot of tell-all and none of Brandan and Mary, aside from them mentioning that their daughter is named Midnight, which is a very interesting name.
So it was wrapped around 3 times.
Scared, my oxygen is lost, and they keep adding oxygen.
Wow, that's terrifying. That is oh my God. That sounds terrifying.
Basically saying, like, if something were to happen to me, take care of Midnight, just show her that, there's light at the end of the tunnel, not in the sense of like,
Not in the Carol Ann, don't go to the light, or Carol Ann, go to the light. Was it Carol Ann, go to the right? Poltergeist, the movie? Anyway. So, yeah, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Not that tunnel. The tunnel on the planet.
Holding Midnight. She's afraid that I'll get upset if she comes out to the living room. I'm
because
playing games, and
like,
she's like,
sometimes
take over.
he's stressing over the game. So if I'll go ask him for help, I'm scared he'll get mad because he's mad at the game, and I'm scared he'll get mad at me. But
okay, so they're talking about video games he's still playing, which of course, why would he completely stop? And they're saying that he's playing less, which is a good sign. And now she's saying she's afraid of his anger because he will get angry at her because she interrupts him with the game, or he's like riled up by the game. Yeah, I think that, and maybe this will work itself out over time, but at least I think I hypothesized that growing up for him, video games might be his only safe place. And imagine the amount of anxiety that he doesn't really show it, but he's got to be experiencing so much anxiety. I mean, the cultural shock alone, right? Married, he has a kid, they're young, they barely know each other, finances, he can't speak the language. So it's a lot of anxiety. So you just imagine that he would need some time for some retreat. He doesn't even... You could see how he would feel that it's not even really his house because, they're living with the parents. And even though he's been there for a while, you could see how he'd be like, well, this isn't really my place. It's not really our place. It's not even really my country or my town. I'm completely a fish out of water permanently. But these games are a comfort to me. It doesn't justify it, but it does provide an explanation. And given his childhood, right, with his mom and then with his dad, you can imagine that would really lock it in. So I wonder if there was another way for him to get that kind of solace and that kind of escape or safety. I don't know. It's interesting. But at the very least, it's not functional that she's afraid of his anger. She's afraid to ask him for help with the child because of his anger. That's not a good sign.
say words that will hurt me.
Words that will hurt you, like what?
I do sometimes call her a scammer. It's like she's only happy when she has money or something like that. And that really upsets her. That really makes her upset. Call her a bitch.
Yikes. By the way, I've been watching snippets of the Danielle and Johan story, which is shocking. He was found out by her to have been in a relationship with a number of women who were giving him money and cheating on her while she was just out of the house running an errand or something, pointing in the direction that Johan is a total actual scammer of multiple people. Apparently, a lot of the women thought that they were the only one or something. Anyway, so yikes. There were some other revelations that I could talk about. Oh, there was another couple that talked about having, the guy said that he had sex with how many people? Lots of people. And then you're doing the math on that, and you're thinking, really? You know, because the typical knee-jerk reaction for a claim like that is, oh, you're bragging or you're lying, or you're exaggerating or something. But the more I watched of it, I thought, well, you know, it is possible. And what's the diff? I mean, as long as it's consensual and everything's on the up and up, then what's the difference? It's unusual, there's a risk there, but everyone can live their life. They can make choices about what they want to do. There was a fair amount of moralizing that was going on. He had a notebook with all of the tick marks, indicating how many. And I'll tell you, the demeanor that he had when he was talking about it did not come across to me as someone that was bragging about it. Now, it could be, but it almost seemed like he was ashamed of it, like he looked back at that time when he was having sex with another woman, a different woman every single night, that he actually, seemingly, the look on his face, it might have indicated that he was ashamed of that time and that he knows that he was doing something that wasn't really what he wanted to do. Because, of course, he's the masculine ideal, right? The Andrew Tates of the world would idolize this guy. He's bagging babes left and right. But that's not, usually people that will elevate that are just indoctrinated into the gender cult. But another reason why people are like that sometimes, men, is because they are having a hard time having sex with anyone, and so they just idolize the exaggeration. But for people that have sex with people, I don't know what way to put it's not appealing, because just because it's a lot of something doesn't mean it's better, doesn't mean it's good, right? It's like saying, I don't know, like, oh, I love to swim. I wish I could swim 24/7. Well, imagine swimming 24/7, it'd be awful. So occasionally, absolutely. Not ever being able to do it, not so great. But there's a happy medium, if you will, for different people. But it looked like he was not happy with it. And it's possible that he actually suffered from something traumatic that he was enacting with these people. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised, because I'd have a hard time finding someone that had sex with a different person that frequently over that span of time, in which they would say, yeah, the whole thing was enjoyable. Every 98% of it was like this really fun time, and I got to know people. It's possible, but the look on his face didn't look that way to me. I don't know. But the other thing was that people were saying, why do you have this notebook? And, I don't know. The look on his face seemed to me that he might be keeping a record so that he can look back and say, like, something's wrong with me. Because from what I can tell, he's not doing that lifestyle anymore. He's with someone now. So it's possible that he was wrapped up in something. There's also some hints of, like, that he's some sort of mini cult leader or something, and his partner is one of his followers. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks. I didn't watch any of their seasons, so I just thought I'd chime in with that. But anyway, so now we're hearing that Brandan calls her names and he loses temper. It's hard to imagine because he seems like such a timid person on camera, but, we can imagine that he flips out. I guess we did see that little bit, but yikes, not okay. And he's got a lot of issues to work out there. And the way she talks about it, she's like, yeah, he does this. And maybe she's okay with it, not okay with it, but it doesn't get under her skin, It's one thing to be abusive. It's another thing to have it be abusive. Just because you are doing abuse doesn't mean it's received as abuse. Someone can be verbally abusive to me, but if I'm not threatened by it or I don't let it get under my skin, then it's not abusive to me. They're exhibiting abusive behavior, but it's not. So, maybe there's a disconnect there. But it's also possible that, because she's not a super expressive face. She almost has like two modes where she's blank or like really upset and triggered, So it's possible that a lot of emotion is going on with her. It's also possible that she's used to that kind of behavior or something in her family. I don't know. But pretty concerning. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. If you're anything like me, your relationships are very important to you. And really, most of the reason why I make content, and perhaps a lot of the reason why you're here with me today, is to think about your relationships. And evidence shows that strong attachments contribute to all sorts of positive outcomes, like improved well-being or happiness, lowered anxiety, lowered depression, better relationships with your kids. Now, one type of relationship that we're often talking about here is romantic relationships or soulmates. I would say that a huge factor in the success of my relationship with my wife has to do with all the therapy that I've been through. Well, one place you can find a therapist to help with that is at BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, it's definitely worth giving a try. So become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
Most of the time, if I get mad, I call her a bitch.
What the
Now, he's admitting it when he doesn't have to, which points in the direction that he recognizes that it's not okay. However, he's admitting it and talking about it nonchalantly as if there's nothing wrong. So I don't know which one it is.
Most of the time, if I get mad, I call her a bitch.
What the Mary, how do you respond when he calls you a bitch?
Yeah, great question by Kalani. She's wanting to know, how do you feel about it? It's one thing that he's doing it. How do you feel? How do you respond?
I'll just cry.
Nice.
And how does that make you
Very
feel,
good.
Brandon?
I don't mean the things I say when I get mad. I just say it to make her upset.
So the fact that he can say that is a good sign. Other people on the show wouldn't even volunteer that, right? He didn't even have to bring that up. He probably could have avoided that whole thing. He'd be like, I don't know, I just get upset. And she doesn't seem like the sort of person that would have raised that. So he's saying it, which is, I think, a good sign. And then we see her say that I just get upset, and then like seemingly a pretty genuine smile. So there's some major questions there.
Sometimes I say it just so she'll get mad. If I'm going to get into an argument with her, I want her to argue with me, not just be like, oh, I'm sorry, it's all my fault and all this stuff. Mary has a hard time not being submissive. I want her.
Wait, okay, I can see that, and it's good that he identifies that and doesn't want her to be submissive, and that can be very concerning just because you don't want your partner to be submissive, but two, also because you don't have contact with them. It's like they're not there with you, and so you want them to meet you and engage with you and be themselves, be human. Don't avoid, it's an avoidance to be submissive. It's also a sign of trauma for her, but for him, he's saying, I don't like that, so my tactic is to be verbally abusive to her such that she gets angry and then she rises to the occasion. That, hey, Brandon, there's another way. You don't have to, be abusive you don't have to abuse her out of submission. That's but it's possible that, yeah, yikes. So we didn't see evidence of this because they didn't get into it, but for Mary, she might have a history of this. And for her, she might actually be terrified and, very easily into a place of submission. And then she might actually be provoking him to get even more abusive. That can happen. Not that she's to blame, but those dynamics can exist. Yikes. How come this never, we saw like a tiny bit of this. This sounds extremely concerning.
To stand up for herself.
So you call her a bitch so she'll fight back?
I just want her to kind of be like, don't call me that. I'm not a bitch, or, I want to get that out of her.
It's possible, but I'm guessing that that's not always the case. I think it's also quite possible that he's hurting her because he just wants to. He's just angry and he doesn't get any pushback. So he just does it because it makes him feel better to hurt her feelings.
To purposefully call someone something for a reaction, that's pretty narcissistic there, baby.
What's narcissistic about that? I don't blame Kalani. It's the fucking internet. It's getting worse. I have clinicians. I have novice clinicians coming to me with these notions. What is narcissistic about that? I think it's just a label for being abusive or toxic or something. It's not narcissistic. It could be. It's not narcissistic. What could possibly be narcissistic about? Yeah, so I'm not even going to try to understand it.
Yeah, it is.
Because that's the mother of your kids. Like, it's a different level of respect now. She carried your baby. Is she like...
I'm behind Kalani in this, and yes, but by contrast, if she wasn't the mother of your child, it's okay, or it's less of a problem. It's not less it's the same level of problem. Across the board, it's not okay to be verbally abusive. Full stop.
Give birth to her.
I'm surprised I thought Brandon was an angel. I really did until now.
The fact that you're able to say, I've done these things and it's not good and I want it to be healthier is helpful. But I feel like
Yeah, Danielle often will say things that I'm thinking, or will say things after I said it or before I said it. So it's interesting to see that. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.